Yes. Hare Krishna. Welcome all. We are reading. So what we have been discussing in the past few days. What was the chapter you were discussing? Which chapter was discussed? Chapter 5. Which section? 5.3. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिने नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। We are discussing chapter 5, section 5.3, individual consciousness and absolute consciousness. Individual consciousness means that one is conscious of his own body, he is conscious of his phenomenal or material world through his own senses, and he is only conscious of his own state. So individual consciousness means we are conscious of our own body and the phenomenal world. So what is the phenomenal world? The one which we observe through our senses, the five senses. I have eyes to see. So whatever experiences I am getting in my eyes, that is because of individual consciousness. I am conscious of those experiences. Whatever experiences I am having in my ears, through my ears, so in my auditory space, I am conscious of them. That is also an example of individual consciousness. And similarly for all other modalities or the sensual perception, what I get, that when I'm conscious of that, that is called the individual consciousness. So we are all individually conscious. I am conscious of what I see with my eyes, what I hear with my ears, what I smell through my nose, and all these. So we are individually conscious. Everybody has their own worldview or their own conscious world, but nobody is aware of others' conscious world. So I have my own worldview, means I have my own perception of the world and my own conscious world, but nobody is aware of others' conscious world. I can give an example here. For example, if you see an electrician will look at your switchboard. So when you look at your switchboard, what do you see? You will see plugs, switches, and if you open it up, you will see some wires of different colors, right? You will see green wire, red wire, yellow wire, blue wire, all these wires you will see. But when an electrician looks at that, he does not look at that in that way. He will see this is positive, negative, this is three-phase system, this is earth, the earthing wire, this is the two-way switch, this is three-way switch, this can be short-circuited, this cannot be short-circuited, like that. So he sees things very differently, right? And if I try to open, if something goes wrong with my power supply, let's say my fan is not working, everything is in front of me, but still I don't see anything, right? I do not know why the fan is not working, because in my worldview, I am not aware of what I see is not sufficient to repair that fan. But when an electrician comes, he will immediately see, okay, let me check. He'll put his tester, which is just, it measures whether the current is flowing there or not, potential difference is there or not. He put his tester and see, oh, there is a potential here, So, oh, there is a potential. It is not there. So this means, okay, the fan is not the problem, but the problem is somewhere in the wiring system. And he will look at the wires. He will go through each and every point, and he will see where exactly the connection is broken, where exactly is the wire not connected, and he will come to the exact position where the fault is located. And I don't see the fault, but the electrician immediately sees the fault. Oh, this is the fault. See, these two wires should have been connected like this, but they're connected like this, right? So he is conscious. His conscious world is very different from my conscious world. He knows what is the fault. I don't know what is the fault. So that is individual consciousness. So that is my worldview. That is the electrician's worldview. Whereas Krishna is conscious of everything and everybody, and his consciousness is known as the absolute consciousness. Now Krishna is conscious of everything and everybody. So what is happening here, what is happening there, Krishna knows everything. A jiva can never attain absolute consciousness. So I do not know. I can never know what is happening everywhere. For example, I can know, okay, what is happening in America. How will I know? Okay, I will check news, or I will check, I will call a friend there and ask what is happening there, and they can tell. So I can be conscious in that sense. That is very indirectly. But I cannot be conscious directly of everything what is happening in America. And I don't even need to. I don't even need to bother about what is happening in the house of a small farmer somewhere in some city of Kansas, somewhere, right? So why should I worry about that? But Krishna has to worry about that. Krishna has to in a sense that Krishna is supplying food, Krishna is taking care of everything, Krishna is causing all the experiences. So Krishna knows, I do not know. To explain this, let us take an example. Suppose you were with many people and suddenly you were bitten by an insect. Only you can feel the pain, and others can't feel your pain even if they are in your proximity. So when I experience something, let's say one insect came and bit me, so there is my brother sitting next to me, my friend sitting next to me, but nobody will know unless I shout or unless I tell, oh, I am experiencing pain here, unless they see and they see, oh, there is some insect and maybe some blood. Then they will say, oh, are you, is it something, are you hurt or something? But they cannot experience the pain. I can experience only that pain. Similarly, you can't feel others' pain or can't know what is happening to them. This is because you are conscious of only your body and not others. I am only conscious of my body. On the other hand, Lord Krishna is conscious of everything. This is the difference between individual consciousness and absolute consciousness. So, think of a situation when you are traveling in a train and befriended a stranger. In a short time, you realize that you have been robbed by your so-called adorable new friend. This is because you failed to see his consciousness. So, in the train I am sitting and my fellow passenger, he looks very friendly, but he does not see the things I see. For example, I see, let's say, a watch as a watch, a very costly Roland watch or Rolex watch. I see it as a watch, but he sees it as wealth, and I see it as, okay, straps and everything, but he sees, okay, this is the string which I pull and the watch will come out and I will take it away, and this is how I will hide it in my pocket, and this is how I will run away from this place. So his worldview is very different. He is conscious of very different things, but I may not be conscious of what he is conscious of. So therefore, I get cheated. So you were conscious of only your body, not his. So you got cheated. There is another example that may make this point very clear. It often happens that a young boy and a young girl get attracted to each other just on the basis of lust. After some time, they both decide to get married, and after marriage, both of them realize that they are poles apart in their consciousness in terms of likes and dislikes, priorities of life. And so force. Thus, in a few months, the marriage ends up in a divorce. This is because none of them is blessed to see through the other's consciousness. Like, so let's say one boy and girl, they get married, and after marriage they realize that even if they are together, but their likes and dislikes are far apart. Their priorities of life are far apart. So they will fight with each other, and they will be dissatisfied, and they will end up in a divorce. So this is because they means when they were marrying, so the boy did not know what was the girl's consciousness, and the girl did not know what was the boy's consciousness. So this is another example of individual consciousness, which is mentioned here. Even a liberated soul is only conscious of his own body and not of others. Now, sir is mentioning very striking point. So, because some people believe that if I will be liberated, then I will also become God, and I will be conscious of everything. I will be controller of everything. So when I am liberated, then I am a controller of everything. This is what somebody may think, but no. However, we notice many charlatans in this world who declare themselves God and cheat innocent people. So they say, oh, I am conscious of everything. Basically they say, I am liberated, so now I am God. I am liberated. How do you know you are liberated? Oh, because some yogic siddhi I have got. I can produce this just with a flick of my hand. Flick of my hand I can produce an apple, and so therefore I am God. And they cheat innocent people. So the point which is being specified here is even liberated people, they are individually conscious. Their consciousness is not absolute consciousness. That is why it is important that we learn Bhagavad Gita as Lord Krishna has taught to Arjuna, and not allow ourselves to be victims of such charlatans. So with this we can answer some questions. What is the difference between individual consciousness and absolute consciousness? You can write your answers on the chat window. What is the difference between individual consciousness and absolute consciousness? Explain with examples. Individual consciousness and absolute consciousness. What's the difference? Am I audible? Yeah. Individual consciousness means consciousness of only one's own body, means my own limited world. It can be it is through my body, and maybe through indirectly, in the sense of somebody tells me this is what. So indirectly I can be conscious of limited world. Individual consciousness of one's own self. Absolute consciousness is consciousness of everything. Individual consciousness is Jiva. Absolute consciousness is Krishna. Yeah. Absolute consciousness is consciousness of all the bodies. Yes. All the bodies in their existence, Krishna is conscious of that. Now the next question is, after liberation one becomes God. Defy this idea using the concept of individual and absolute consciousness. After liberation one becomes God. After liberation one becomes God. How this idea is not supported. Yeah, a liberated soul is also individual conscious, as mentioned on the text. Yes, the liberated soul is only conscious of his own body, not of others. So even a liberated person is not conscious of everything and everyone. Only God can have absolute consciousness. Liberated soul can also have individual consciousness. Liberated soul also have individual consciousness. Next is external and internal consciousness. So we become aware of this phenomenal world through some sensory perception. That is when senses including mind come in contact with the objects of senses. Let me see how long this is. This is quite long actually. Oh, this is quite long. Let's see maybe a first few paragraphs. We become aware of this phenomenal world through sensory perception, like I have got 5 senses, eyes, ears, etc. And I become aware of my external world through sensory perception. And when the senses, including mind, come in contact with the object of senses, then perception takes place. When the external stimulus and my senses, they come together, then I say, oh yes, this is a chair, this is a table. So actually just a signal is coming from the outside world, and I am perceiving it, I am seeing it with my in my visual space. And since I have learned that this is an object which is called chair, this shape is called chair, and this is the kind of relationship I can have with it, I can sit on it and it won't collapse, that I call as a chair. But what is coming from the external world is just a signal which is perceived through my senses. A phenomenal world, the phenomenal world is the world of experiences. There are 5 forms of objects of senses: sound, touch, form, taste and smell. The way we react to such sensory perceptions reflects our consciousness. Okay. Yeah. Now what is my consciousness? How do I know? How I react to these sensory perceptions. For example, sound. If I am, what kind of sound I recognize. For example, if you ask, let's say, Jivanesh Prabhu, and somebody is playing Mridanga, he can quickly tell, oh, this beat is not correct, this beat is correct. But for an ordinary person like me, I will not make any distinction. I will say, just some nice music is going on, or maybe somebody is beating the drum. But I can't tell what is the right beat, what is the wrong beat. But if Jivanesh Prabhu is trained, Jivanesh Prabhu knows Mridanga, so he can do it. He can immediately recognize this is the wrong beat, this is the right beat. So this is this reflects our consciousness. Now, also if somebody is Krishna conscious, how he sees the world, and if somebody is not Krishna conscious, how he sees the world. So when I see, let's say, a nice piano, what will an ordinary person do? He will start playing a music on it, and he will perceive that music just for enjoyment. But what will a devotee do? He will also play music, but he will sing Hare Krishna on the music. So that is his consciousness. He sees the piano as an instrument in Krishna service, but a mundane person will see a piano as sense gratification instrument for sense gratification. So we see the world based on our consciousness. When I see, let's say, a bottle of wine, I will run away. This is worst thing to have. But when a drunkard will see a bottle of wine, he will run towards it. Oh, this is what I want. So this reflects our consciousness. And Sir is giving more examples. When a lusty action of my friend arises lust in me, it is to be understood that my consciousness had lust. If some behavior of my friend makes me angry, it implies that anger was already there in my consciousness. When I see fault in others, it entails envy and pride for sitting in my consciousness. However, if one remains undisturbed even in the presence of actions connected to lust, greed, anger, envy and pride, then it is understood that such a person is internally or self-situated. So now, how do I know consciousness? If I see a lusty action and immediately I also become lusty, this means my consciousness is lusty consciousness. It was already lusty. It is not that by seeing that lusty action, it has become lusty, but it was already lusty. It was there, but just that the action that triggered that lust, and I was able to perceive it. And similarly, if somebody is angry, and if somebody does something, and I become angry, I lose my temper. This means I already had anger in my consciousness. My consciousness was of that sort. So the statement which we are trying to understand is this, that the way we react to sensory perceptions reflects our consciousness. Right? For example, if I see something, what is it? It is just some signals, right? If you take it as an image is what? Just some pixels, some pixel values are there. But I don't see pixels, I see some action there. I will either become lusty or angry or proud or envious on seeing a picture. Right? For example, if I see a picture of, okay, I will ask a question. What kind of pictures will make me envy? What kind of picture, if I see, it will make me envious? What kind of picture I see that makes me envious? Nobody is replying. Yes, very good. So Abhishek Prabhu says that when I see a picture of somebody in the CPI list, his name is on the top and my name is somewhere in the middle, then okay, maybe not in the middle also. If let's say somebody's name is on the first place and my name is on the second place, I'll immediately become envious. So this person is getting 10 points and I'm not getting. So this is one example. Although it is the same image which is just made of some pixels, just you change the pixels a little bit here and there and it is a different message altogether. But I see it as okay. Now let us see this example in a little more detail. Can we say that we experience our consciousness? Yeah, sir often says that we experience our consciousness. So, so let us say I see a picture where my friend has got 10 points, I got 9.9, let's say, in that list. Then if a person has envy, he will immediately become envious. Oh, this is so bad. But let's say if I love my friend so much and I may really become happy. Oh wow, he has got 10 points, so good, and I may become very happy with his success. So this means there was no envy within me, and I had genuine love for my friend. So an example could be given in this regard. Very often we see when parents, they see their kids progressing, they become very happy. So many times you see the father will say, I'm so happy my son is doing better than me, right? When I could only achieve this much. This is a very mundane example, but this shows an example. This shows an example how absence of enviousness. Even when we see somebody rising more than us, we don't become envious. So the father will say, oh, in my life I could achieve only this much, but see, my son is able to do much better, and he becomes happy with the success of his son. Why? Because that the father sees the son as his own, so he recognizes that relationship, and because of that, he does not become envious. Similarly, if I have a friend who is doing better than me, and I know the relationship that he is, it's like I'm servant of Krishna, he is servant of Krishna, and then I won't become envious. And then I won't become envious of my friend. Okay, I think we can stop here for today, and you can. So we'll continue tomorrow from the next paragraph. Okay. So, anybody has any questions? Anybody has any questions here? No questions. Then we can stop here and see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.